What's up, everybody? I'm Tasha from the Major Change Group, and tonight, you guys, I have a special guest tonight, Nail from Water Your Soul. Y'all, I am so excited to have him on the channel. He has amazing content, but also he is an author and he has a book and it's called Strategies to Mastering Credit. And so we're going to talk about it. And then today we're actually going to do a giveaway for this book. So we'll have some comments in the chat and things like that. So without further ado, let me bring Nail from Water Your Soul on to the channel. What's up, Nail?
Hey, what's going on? What's going
How are
on,
you
Tuck?
doing?
Hey, I'm doing pretty good. What about yourself?
I am doing great. Thank you so much. I'm so glad to have you on the channel. And I look, this is hot off the press. I got it today from Amazon.
Hey, I appreciate that. I
Yes, I
appreciate
wanted
that.
to do a giveaway because it is just, to be able to write a book. Now, tell us before you, well, tell us about your channel, but then tell us, why did you want to write this book? This is amazing. My first author on the channel. This is really good. A lot of people don't write books, but you actually wrote a book. Tell
Yeah.
us.
All right. First of all, I want to say I'm honored to be on your channel, that you want to feature me. And I remember you came by my channel and was featured,
Yeah.
and that was a great informative video. So I had to come by and return the favor. But I'm Nell from Water Your Soil. I like to make videos about credit scores and credit cards, not necessarily points and things like that,
Right.
more so about how to use credit cards the correct way. As far as the correct way, I'm referring to your credit score, and also how to increase your credit score, maintain your credit score.
Mm-hmm.
So the book is about that. I went from poor credit to excellent credit. So back in 2019, I decided to put it all down in book format and write a book and share my information that I learned over time and that helped me, and share that information with others. So the book has been out for years now. It's been out
Okay.
for years.
Mm-hmm.
And I just decided to come out with that book in order to help people. The book was actually out before I even got on YouTube. So
Wow, really?
yeah, so it's been around for a while, but I made the
Mm-hmm.
book to help people basically get a better understanding about credit scoring and how credit scoring works. Because when it comes to credit scores, a lot of times people, they hear about, hey, the dispute letters and things like that, but it's so much more to credit scoring and
Right.
how it works. And once you really get a grasp of how credit scoring works, you pretty much can set yourself up for both the present and the future. So
Right.
I
Right.
decided to share that information.
No, that's great because I would say one thing that I feel like, while we agree on a lot of things, one thing that I feel like we really, really, really agree with is I don't necessarily think that you have to do credit repair. So
Correct.
can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, when it came from me going from the 500s and working my way up, I didn't do credit repair.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people, that money that you could be given towards credit repair, because people, they go and they give thousands of dollars to credit repair people.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't have anything against credit repair people. I mean, hey, it's their business. I just don't do it.
Right.
But if you're giving thousands to them to repair your credit, you could be giving those thousands to pay down what your credit card bills if you have credit card debt, pay
Right.
down your auto loan if you have auto loan debt, pay down your mortgage if you have mortgage debt, or whatever it may be. You could be using that money to chop down on debt, because chopping down on the debt that you do owe, eventually you should start seeing results towards your credit score. So
Mm-hmm.
of course, it's all dependent on people. All of this is subjective, and
Right.
it's all opinion. So I
Mhm.
always tell people to use their own discretion. But
Yes.
you know, when it comes down to it, you could be using that money, those thousands of dollars, towards yourself, instead
Right.
of going out and seeking people to do it for you. Because a lot of times you hear the stories about credit repair, and so many people, they get screwed over from giving
Mhm.
thousands of dollars to credit repair people,
Right.
and they don't see much results. So I like to encourage people to learn as much as they can, and you pretty much can do it on your own
Right.
if you really put in the time and the effort.
Because basically, from what you're saying, because you had a video on your channel recently, and you were stating that you came from what, a 500 credit score to over a 800, and you did
Correct.
that without credit repair, and that was before you wrote your book. Tell us, like really briefly, why did you want to repair your credit? Like, what made you get into that?
Pure embarrassment. Honestly, I had a 549 credit score, and I had
Whoa,
just
you
been
had a 549 credit score
correct.
now.
Yeah, I had a 549, and I had been trying to get a new car because I had a new job and I wanted a new car, but I currently had one, and it was a used car, and the car needed a motor. Everything about the car was in good shape, minus the motor. And the motor was thousands of dollars, and I was like, instead of going out and getting a new motor, I might as well get a car. That was my logic back then. But I would go to the dealerships and they would tell me I didn't have a credit score in order to get approved for a car. And then
Okay.
I didn't want to do buy here pay here because of the high interest rate,
Right.
so I decided to go to the dealerships and was getting rejected. Then I finally got approved at a dealership, got the car, had to return it within 30 days. So just pure embarrassment. That's what
Okay.
inspired me to just go and learn as much as I can about increasing my credit score.
Mm-hmm.
It took time, but I was able to do it. And it all comes down to the why for people. You have to know why
Right.
you want to do something. And the reason why the why is so important is because that's what's going to keep you going. I remember one time during the journey, I think it was like a year or two in, probably a year in, my
Mm-hmm.
credit score got stuck at a 660 for 9 straight months.
Mm-hmm.
And that becomes discouraging for someone who's new to trying to increase their credit score. So that 9 straight months, I had to focus and lock in on my why. And that's what kept me going, honestly, because I was looking at it like, hey, I don't know if I want to continue on with this, but I did. And then the results came. And then eventually it led to excellent credit and an 800 credit score. So it's
Wow.
worth it.
Yes, it totally is. I think that is a really good story about, especially going from 30 or somewhere like that, and then
Correct.
you got to 660. But would you say, what is an average good credit score? What would you say is an average good credit score?
That varies, because
Mhm.
it all depends on what you're trying to do
Right.
and who you're trying to get approved by, because there's so
Mhm.
many different credit scores.
Yep.
So it varies. I say anywhere in the 700s would be somewhere that's comfortable for
Yeah.
people, but
Mhm.
it all depends, honestly, because like I stated, it depends on which credit score that they're using, whether it's FICO, Vantage Score. There are so many different credit scores. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Now, when you were trying to increase your credit score, what strategies did you use to, hone into? Because especially going from like, 530 or something like that, where did you get started with first to be able to even get up to over 800?
Yeah, the first move that I made, honestly, was signing up for a secured credit card. And I actually signed up for two. Did one with Discover, and then I did one with my bank. So
Mm-hmm.
I ended up starting off with two. But the first one that I started off with was with Discover. And that pretty much jump started me with, increasing my score and actually learning about how to manage a credit card, learning about utilization and things like that. So that actually helped me by
Right.
signing up for a secure credit card, because managing a credit card, it goes along the lines of budgeting if you're doing
Yeah.
it the correct way.
Mm-hmm.
So it pretty much started that trend for me, and from there it just continued as the months and the years went by.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Before we go to the next question, I want to shout out to a few people in the chat. So we got Before the Billions. What's up, Before the Billions? I really need to have him on my channel because he has a very good story. And we have Lonnie from Call Me Lonnie. He's here and
Shout
he
out to
was just
Lonnie
on
and
your
Before the
channel.
Billions.
So
Yeah,
that's really
definitely.
good. And then we have Lisa from J Stocks. She's in the chat as well. And so you guys coming in, we're going to be doing a giveaway today of Nell's book, Strategies to Mastering Credit. And so, very excited about that.
Yeah, shout out to Before the Billions,
Yeah.
Lonnie and Lisa. Shout out to everybody who's tuning in.
Yes, excited for them to be in the chat and just joining. And if y'all have any questions, please don't hesitate to put them in the chat, and then we'll get to them. So I know that you were stating that, especially with utilization and things like that, because I think that the quickest way for somebody to increase their credit score is by tackling their utilization. Can you talk a little bit about credit utilization?
Yeah, I always tell people credit card utilization is important, especially if you have credit cards,
Mhm.
because you know 30% of your credit score is how well you manage your debt. I always tell people this. And if you have credit scores, if you have credit cards, that's pretty much a good indicator of how well you are with managing your credit limit. I always tell people, like, on a month to month basis, this credit card company is letting you borrow a specific amount, and it's up to you whether you want to use all of the money that they're letting you borrow or you
Mhm.
want to use a percentage. And if you play it the smart way and use a small percentage, the FICO credit scoring system from the three major credit bureaus, they reward you for that. You used to be 30%. They used to always tell people, like, hey, you want to have your credit card utilization at 30% or less. But
Right.
lately, the credit bureaus, they have been telling people like 10% or less is
Yeah,
usually the sweet spot.
exactly. Right.
So it's important to know how to manage your credit card utilization, not just with credit cards either, but overall your debt. The more you're paying down on your debt, like if you have an auto loan
Yeah.
or a home loan, it usually, helps your credit score for the most part. Now,
Mhm.
sometimes it could work against you, like if you pay off your loan and it closes out the account, but that's usually a temporary thing. But for the most part,
Yeah.
when you're paying down on your debt, it usually works in your favor when it comes to FICO, especially if
Mhm.
you're doing it on time.
Yeah. Now, Nell, I'm glad that you said that, because that's going to bring up, this is one thing that I feel like we don't necessarily maybe agree on 100%. And so I know you were talking more so about paying down your debt, especially to me, if you're trying to increase your credit score, fast. But
Correct.
you kind of talked a little bit about, let's say, because if you pay it down, the account will close and things like that. But more so with credit cards, now I know you usually say like you never close a credit card except for that what is it, that Best Buy card that they had
Oh
closed
yeah,
of
they did
yours.
that. Yeah.
So why would you not close a credit card? Let's talk about it now.
Yeah, definitely. Everyone has their own way of doing it,
Mm-hmm.
but for me, I'll always think the long game. So that's
Mm-hmm.
why I'm big on not closing down credit card accounts,
Okay.
because I'm thinking the long game. Also, the short term, usually you get hit by the major credit bureaus when you close down an account. They usually hit your score, although it's usually temporary. It's
Right.
still a hit, and some people they can't afford to hit at all,
You right?
especially if they need their credit score for something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But I always think the long game. So I'm thinking about that credit age for years down the line. Let's
Mm-hmm.
say back in 2012, I opened up a card and then I decided to close it in 2016.
Ooh.
Well, I only had it for 4 years, but imagine if I had that card from 2012 to right now. That's
Mm-hmm.
going on 13 years, So
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
yeah, I always think about the long game, because if you do any research on credit scores, the older generations, they have the highest credit scores.
Yeah, because
On average, it starts
yeah.
with the silent generation. They have the
Mhm.
highest. They're the
Right.
oldest generation. Then you have the baby boomers,
Mm-hmm.
then Generation X, then millennials. So it works in that order. And credit age has a lot to do with it. Of course, things like your debt and things like that. But
Mm-hmm.
for the most part, credit age plays a major role
Yeah.
in your credit score. So
Mm-hmm.
I just think the long game, everyone can do what they want to do. That's the cool thing about
You know,
this.
because
But I'm just
I be
thinking about
talking
the
about
long game.
closing cards. I
Yeah,
talk
yeah,
about it.
that's not my thing. But I don't shun people who do it.
Mhm.
I don't be like, hey, if you close cars, you're horrible. It is what it is. But for me, I'm thinking the long game.
Mhm. Yeah, no, I totally understand, because
Yeah,
I think it's one, just understanding our credit profile all the way. So I don't know that I would necessarily close a card that was 10 years old. But maybe if it's a card, especially for me, if it has an annual fee, and let's say I'm not using it because I've done this before,
yeah,
and it was like a year old. Like I don't have no problem closing it, but like that one time the Bank of America closed not one but two of my cards, and I probably had those like 15 years. Like I literally was like, oh my God, like no, I was so mad about it.
Yeah.
But so I would not close probably, maybe possibly 5 years and higher. But then, like you said, it really depends on your profile. So if I know I
Correct.
have a thin profile, then no, I'm not going to close a card. But if I have, maybe like 10 or 15, maybe 20 years of a, length of credit, because that's 15% of our score, then, I might consider it.
Correct.
No, that's cool. Now, you know how we see these videos on YouTube and they're saying like you can increase your credit like 100, 200 points in a month. What would you say is a more realistic, you know, expectation of increasing your credit score month to month?
I always say that's a tough question because everyone has a different credit report.
Okay.
Some people have credit reports that are new. Some people have credit reports that are older. Some people have credit reports that have cars that have been around 10 to 15 years.
Mm-hmm.
Some have credit reports with cars that just was open, what, a year or so ago
Yeah.
or less than that. So you can't just go and generalize, when you're dealing with people,
Mm-hmm.
you're dealing with a whole population and everyone has a different credit report. Everyone has different accounts. Everyone has different debt. Everyone has, some people have hard inquiries, a lot of them, some people don't. So if you give advice to someone to do one thing, the next person, it may not impact their credit score the
Yeah.
same way it did that person.
Yeah.
So I try to, that's one thing that I tried not to do is
Mm-hmm.
throw out numbers, because if you could find someone who could predict numbers and credit
Right.
scores, then they should be ruling this thing when it comes to this credit scoring, because honestly, I don't think anyone knows how many
Mhm.
points everyone could move. I don't think anyone has
Yeah.
the answer to that. I just
Yeah.
don't. Because,
Mhm.
like I said, everyone has a different credit report, and that matters, you
It
know?
does. It does. Because, like you said, let's say if you have high utilization, but then you have a good length of credit, you have a good payment history, and you don't have a lot of inquiries. Well, if you pay down your debt, then you might can increase it. But let's say if you got a lot of late payments, those late payments that really mess you up to where you
Correct.
can't it's gonna take a longer period of time for your credit score to increase. Yep. So I definitely can understand that.
Definitely.
Yep. But we have some more people in the chat. So I want to give a shout out to Rod from Points Blank Travel. He
Shout
said,
out to
"What up,
Rod.
Tasha and Water Your Soul in chat." And I just want everybody to know tonight we're going to be doing a giveaway on Nell's book, Strategies to Master Credit. So put a comment in the chat and then I will be picking someone if you have a good question, and I will you'll be able to email me and then I will get this book sent out to you. So I think that that's very good. Now, you do talk some about disputes, and then we hear a lot about people stating to send letters and things like that so that you can dispute your credit. What are your thoughts on that?
Um, Actually, I don't have an issue with disputes,
Hmm.
honestly.
Hmm.
I actually used the dispute letters before, so
Okay.
yeah, I don't have an issue with it. What I do have an issue with is people thinking that disputes are the end all be all. That's my issue,
Mm. Okay.
because there are some people out here, all they know is dispute letters. If I was to ask them about credit card utilization,
Hmm.
they couldn't tell me. Actually, there are some people, I remember years ago coming across someone on Instagram, and they couldn't even name the three major credit bureaus, but they were
Whoa.
talking about dispute letters. And
Hmm.
that's just one of the major things that I see going around these days, is talk about dispute letters. But you got to be careful when it comes to the dispute letter thing. Like I stated, if you have to use them, that's cool, but you need to know how credit scoring works. That's far more important than dispute letters, because if you're just sending out dispute letters to rescue yourself,
Mhm.
there's a high possibility you're going to end up needing that same service down the line, because you're just
Mhm.
going to continue to do the same thing over again because
Right.
you don't have any experience with knowing how credit scoring works. Once you learn how credit scoring works, that solves a lot of problems,
It
because then
does.
you'll know, like, hey, I did this wrong, so I need to avoid doing this, or I
Mhm.
didn't do this and I need to do that. I always try to tell people, don't be afraid of trial and error, especially when it comes to credit scores. It helps because it
Mhm.
teaches you. And that's the best route to go. So I don't have an issue with dispute letters. I
Okay.
do have an issue with them being the end dog game.
Right, right. No. But I know on your channel you do a lot of news in regards to, your credit score, credit cards, and things like that. And especially with us being in what 1.7 trillion dollars of credit card debt. Why do you feel like it's important to give the news in regards to credit?
Yeah, because I just wanted to give the angle that, a lot of people who look like me and you, they may not be getting, you're not going to get this on regular news. You probably get it in the latter half of
Mm-hmm.
regular news. Like, they're not going to show it at the beginning of news on TV. They're gonna show the crime and the current events and things like
Mm-hmm.
that. And they use stuff like the things that I talk about on my channel at the end, maybe in the last 3 minutes or so. A lot of people don't stick around to the last 3 minutes. So
Right.
what I wanted to do is bring the news live and direct so people can know what's going on in relation to credit cards and credit scores, because it's important. A lot of that stuff goes under the radar and people don't know what's going on, and this stuff impacts us. It
Mm-hmm.
impacts us all, whether it's
Yeah.
for credit scores or whether it's for credit cards, it impacts us. So I wanted to bring it to people live and direct. That way they'll be able to know, like, hey, I didn't know that. I didn't know that this bank is doing this, or this credit score company is doing this. It's good to share the news. That way they'll know.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think it's very important. Now we're, ending fourth quarter and Christmas is around the corner and we buying gifts and all that kind of stuff. And you had recently did a video, one talking about how the retail companies were increasing their interest rates on their credit cards. Let's say JC Penney's, Burlington's, really a lot of the major companies where we're going to be
Correct.
buying presents and stuff from. But then also in that video you talk about how really from 2023 some people are still carrying that Christmas debt from 2023. What would you say are some tips for people to, even though we're in the gift giving time and we want to buy stuff and all that, how can we make sure that we're not accruing a whole lot of debt going into 2025?
You can set a budget. That's a good thing to do. Set a budget
Mm-hmm.
with your credit cards.
Yep.
My only advice, honestly, because I can't tell people what to do.
Okay.
People are
I
gonna
got
go,
you. I
they're
got
gonna do what they want to do regardless. So
Uh-huh.
all I can say is be careful around this time. I
Mhm.
was looking at Black Friday sales the other day, and I was like, hold on. For these Black Friday sales, like I was looking at headphones and things like that, like a month and a half or so, the prices were lower than what they were on Black
What?
Friday.
Oh my goodness.
So I was like, people got to be careful, because I noticed a trend with that.
Mm,
Just
mm,
like
mm.
the day after Christmas, like the morning after Christmas, they usually have a great sale going on. And I
Mhm.
don't think a lot of people catch it because it's like early morning, like 4 or 5 in the morning on Christmas Day, and I think a lot of people don't catch it,
Mhm.
but it's usually a lot of sales going on. So my whole thing would be to be careful,
Yeah.
because things are, the sell, the whole sign that says sell, it makes people eyes light up.
Yeah, it
So
do.
you don't want to get too greedy during the holiday season. So it
Mm-mm.
just comes down to being careful and setting a budget. And if you don't want to do those things, then hopefully you'll pay off whatever you spend and not carry over balances. Because if you're using the store card, the interest on those store credit cards are ridiculous. So you want to be
Yes.
careful.
Yeah, those store cards, like Best Buy and JC Penney's and
Yeah,
Nordstrom's and Dillard's and all that, like those
yeah,
interest rates are like over 35%. And then they were
yeah,
saying for Black Friday, the average, I guess you can say household was spending anywhere between $600 and $1,000 for Black Friday, and
correct.
so with the article that you were talking about on your channel, just saying, well, even for 2023, people still had, they carry a lot of debt, from
Yeah,
December on to the new year. And so just have to be careful. But just like you said, I think budgeting is going to be very, very important.
correct.
Now, I want to give a shout out to Key. What up, Key from Kiki
Shout out to Keith.
Adventures? Y'all have to check out her channel and also anybody else that's in the channel because we're going to be wrapping up here soon. And even if you are watching the replay, put a comment or a really good question in the chat, and then I will decide who should get this book. Or if it's somebody that's really, really wanting to start increasing their credit score. So let's say if you were like he was several years ago, to where he had what, a 530 or 550,
549.
549, and then he got
Yeah.
all the way up to what, 830. Where are you at now?
Right now, I have 800 all across the board, so it's
800
all
all across
it's
the board.
yeah, it's over eight. The highest I ever got was a 838. I
Woo.
always tell people when it comes to these, like Chaz Moneyman has said, when it
Mhm.
comes to these credit scores, the 800s is cool. The
Yeah.
reason why I favor the 800s is because I'm on here teaching people about credit scores.
Mhm.
People are always gonna say, "Well, what do you know?" So I'm like, "Hey," but I like the breathing room that the
Yeah.
800s give you. You can
Mhm.
do things. You can apply for a new account. You can add new accounts. Your score is gonna drop, but you'll
Mhm.
still be in that excellent range. So that's why I like it because of the breathing room that it gives you. But you don't need an 800.
Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
breathing room, people like the breathing room that comes along with it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because I would say, really probably anywhere between 720 and 750, you're really gonna be able to get all the perks. But it's just like on the one hand, like let me get an 800, and it's like I feel like I had an 800 for just a little bit because for my credit, I have a good credit profile, but I do have some late payments on my credit. And so really that's what is dragging, my credit down a little bit. But after that, I feel like if I didn't have those late payments on there, that's why I just say, man, if you just making sure to that we're paying our bills on time and things like that. And then I know you had said something about, cosigning and things, like you really have to be careful
Yeah.
with those things because it really, you don't think that it is. So shout out to the person, because really once they told you no, that really got you into the
Oh
mindset from what
yeah.
I was hearing, to where it's like, I got to really do this thing. So it's really a
Correct.
win-win for both people because, it can go down the wrong way.
Correct.
Yep. But now I just really appreciate you so much for taking the time out to come and chat with us. Before we go, can you tell us maybe, one tip in regards to strategies to master your credit where, let's say if somebody is wanting to increase their credit score and they don't know where to go, what is like that one tip that you would say that can kind of jumpstart them?
My advice to anyone who's interested in increasing their credit score is try to learn as much as you can about credit scores. You don't have to worry about the increase part initially. Try to learn as much as you can. Try to learn the 5 categories that go into making up a FICO credit score. I think that's very important. Learn the 5 categories, learn the basics, learn about hard inquiries, learn about utilization, learn about your statement date and closing date and the difference between it.
Yeah.
Learn about different credit cards. Just try to learn and soak up as much information as you can. And then gradually, if you're really interested in it, you'll start to, dive into it more and you'll start seeing results because then you'll apply it. So many times people they hunt for ways to increase their credit score and they hunt for the fastest way and the quickest way, and that's how you get set up because when you're searching for the fastest and the quickest way, you're skipping on the learning part, and the learning part is the most important because the learning part is what's going to keep you in a position where you don't have to keep repeating it over and over, because there are people out here that they just keep messing up with their credit score and they don't understand why. But a great part of the reason is they're not learning about how credit scoring works. Once you learn about how credit scoring works, it will help you out a great deal,
Right.
because not only will it work for yourself and you'll know what to do and what not to do, you'll also be able to know what to avoid, and you'll be able to help others as well. That's the main thing, to be able to pay it forward once you learn. So just try to learn and soak up as much as you can. Of course, you have to verify what you do learn, make sure it's
Mm-hmm.
legit. The way you do that is
Right.
learning from multiple sources. That's how you verify.
Mm-hmm.
Also, one key thing that I always tell people, the three major credit bureaus, Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion, each of them have a website. You can always verify things with them. They
Yeah.
have a website.
Mm-hmm.
Equifax have a website. Experian has a blog. I believe
Mm-hmm.
TransUnion has a blog as well. And those blogs are filled with information. So just try to learn and verify as much as you can.
Mm-hmm. Yes, I really like experience because
Yeah,
they have the score ingredient. But you know what I found out? Because you know a lot of our credit cards they report your credit too, and American Express reports from Experian, and you can get the score ingredient
correct.
out of the American Express portal.
Correct.
And I actually really like Chase's portal too because
Yeah.
yes, theirs is really good because it'll show you all of your your credit
Yep.
utilization and things like that. So that's where I would go. I mean, I do that pretty much a couple of times a month and I'll check my credit utilization from there. And so it's like almost even though you can check your credit at least once a year free through the three major credit bureaus,
Correct.
really, especially with Chase, you can pull your whole credit report in the Chase portal. And
Correct.
so yeah, I really like it.
Definitely.
But yes, before we go, if you would like this book that
Mhm.
Nell wrote, and it is called Strategies to Mastering Your Credit, even if you're watching the replay, put a question in the chat in regards to, stating how you want to increase your credit score, and I will send you my email so that I can mail you the book. But Nell, I just really appreciate you coming on the channel. So, can you tell them where they can find you?
Yeah. First of all, I appreciate you for having me. I
Mm-hmm.
really do. It's an honor. Whenever someone invites me to their channel, I'm honored. So I appreciate you for inviting me. But you can find my channel at Water Your Soil over here on YouTube. It's at then Water Your Soil all together.
Mm-hmm.
But I appreciate you for just inviting me out. I'm serious.
Mm-hmm.
I mean that.
Yes, I really appreciate you for joining. And I want to shout out to a couple of people in the chat. Before the billions, thank you so much. He
Shout out
says,
to
I use American Express FICO score all the time. I want to shout out Rod
shout out to
from
Rod.
Point Blank Travel. And then before we go, he has this one question. How can I increase my credit score after a lengthy unemployment period?
After the same way how you could after anything. It's kind of funny because one of the people that I helped out over the years that had the greatest increase in their credit score, they were actually unemployed on
Okay.
limited income,
Hmm.
honestly. And
Yeah.
this the characteristics, the five characteristics and the five categories and the principles, they apply for everyone,
Yeah.
whether you have a decent job or
Mm-hmm.
whether you're on a limited income,
Yeah.
whatever, you can still accomplish a good or excellent credit score. And
Mm-hmm.
I have proof of that because I helped people over the years that were on limited income from being unemployed,
Mm-hmm.
but they still were able to do it. So
Yeah.
those five categories still matter no matter what your income is.
Look, that's a good video. That's a good video right there because really, even if you have credit card debt, the whole thing is are you paying your bills on time? Do you keep, not where it's maxed out? Your length of credit? Are you applying for a lot of credit cards? And then
Correct.
your new credit. So it's just like, even if you were unemployed, but you were still paying a minimum payment and paying it down as much as you can, or not accruing a lot of new debt, really you could still manage your credit. and
Correct.
your credit score doesn't have to decrease. So thank you for before the billions for that question. I'm definitely gonna get in contact with you. So and before the billions, actually, I'm gonna send you this book. I'm gonna send you this book before the billions, but I know that I can get in contact with you and I will I'll send the book, but I want to just say thank you for Key, Points Blank Travel, Lonnie, and Lisa for joining the chat, and everybody else that joined the chat that didn't make a comment. But thank you so much. I really appreciate you, and we will see you next time.
All
Thank you so
right.
much for watching.
All right. Bye. Yeah.